She knocked on my door. Same rhythm. Same pause between the taps. But my wife died 3 years ago. And yet, there she was. Her voice whispered my name. Her eyes held memories only we had. But her skin shimmered with a color that didn't belong to Earth. I wanted to believe it was her. I needed to. But what if love survives, by becoming something else? This is not a story about who she was. This is a story about who I became when she returned. She knocked like it was still her home. But I buried her 3 years ago. The knock came at 2:17 a.m. Ethan had been awake, not working, not reading, just sitting in a dim kitchen light with an old mug of something cold in his hand. He hadn't expected anything. Not at that hour. Not in that silence. But the knock was calm. Not rushed. 3 slow, steady taps. As if the person on the other side knew exactly how he'd remember them. He stood up. The hallway was dark, the walls humming gently with the life support systems. The door's security light blinked green. Someone had overridden the outer lock. He opened it. And time broke. She stood there. In a suit the color of blood and sunset. Not armor, not clothing, something in between. Her hair was dark, almost blue, braided tightly down her back like rope from another world. Her skin shimmered faintly under the porch light, white, but not warm. Almost translucent. Her ears, sharp, inhuman. But her eyes were Amelia's. He didn't speak. Couldn't. She did. Ethan, it's me? Just like that. No hesitation. As if he should know. As if nothing had passed. As if 3 years hadn't been swallowed by grief, by silence, by stars. He backed 1 step into the corridor, breath caught halfway between a gasp and a scream. "Who are you?" he asked, finally, though it came out broken. She didn't move. Didn't plead. Just looked at him like he was the one who had changed. "I remember our window in autumn," she said. "How you used to drink coffee but never finish it. How we painted the hallway and left a handprint under the paint. I remember the name you whispered when you thought I was asleep." Ethan's throat closed. The hallway around him shrank. It was impossible. He had buried Amelia after the disaster on Moon Relay Station 9. No remains had been found. Just a melted batch. Her voice lost in static. Now she was standing at his door. But not her. Not exactly. "Why do you look like her?" he asked. The question came out angrier than he expected. "Because I am her?" A beat. Then another. He stepped forward. Not to embrace. Not to touch. Just to see more clearly. The face was perfect, but something in the texture, the shimmer beneath her skin, wasn't human. Or maybe too perfect to be human. "You're not real," he whispered. She didn't argue. "Then why are you here?" he asked. She paused. Her lips parted, but no words came. Then, simply, "Because you never stopped waiting." The air grew colder. The silence between them stretched, heavy with everything unsaid. Ethan wanted to slam the door. But his hand didn't move. He wanted to scream, but his voice was a stone in his chest. She stood still. He looked at her eyes again. The same shade of green. The same flicker when she was nervous. The same tear forming in the corner, not falling, not quite. She remembered. And he remembered remembering. Then she said, "If you want me to go, I'll go. But don't pretend you don't know who I am." And that was the worst part. He did know. Somehow, in some twisted, aching way, he knew. He stepped aside. She didn't smile. She just walked past him, quietly, like she belonged there. And in the doorway's glow, he caught the faintest scent like the perfume Amelia wore once, before the accident. Before the silence. He closed the door slowly. Outside, the stars watched without blinking. Inside, Ethan stood in the dark, beside the woman who might be his wife. Or might be something else. And he wasn't ready to know which. She remembered the hotel room in Venice. But not the way humans cry. The next morning, Ethan didn't sleep. He just watched her, watched how she moved around the kitchen like she remembered where things had been, though he had rearranged it a year ago. She reached for the sugar in the wrong cabinet, then smiled and corrected herself, like catching a memory mid-flight. "Why Venice?" he asked, coffee untouched between his hands. She looked up, no hesitation. "Because we missed the train, and you said missing it was better than making it. We walked until our shoes were soaked. I got a blister on my left heel. You carried me across the last bridge. Everything was right. The details. The rhythm." But her voice had no stumble. No searching. It was too clean, like a story told, not remembered. He pushed harder. "What color was the blanket in the hotel?" "Dark green, with a gold stripe at the bottom. You spilled wine on it and tried to hide the stain with your jacket." His stomach twisted. That wasn't something even Amelia's mother knew. But she said it like she was reading a report. Not laughing. Not embarrassed. Not there. He stared at her. She stared back, patient. Too patient. "You sound like a recording," he muttered. A flicker in her eyes. A hesitation. "I'm not," she said. "I remember you, Ethan. I remember what it felt like to watch you sleep." He stood. "Then tell me this. What did I say when you left for Relay 9? She paused. This time longer. "You said, 'Don't be a hero.'" He shook his head. "No, I said, 'Come back bored.' Because I knew boredom meant safe." She didn't argue. Didn't correct herself. She just nodded. "I forgot that." For the first time, her voice cracked. Slightly. That scared him more than her perfection. By noon, Ethan had already made the call to a contact from his old lab days. Discreet. Off record. A mobile unit arrived by dusk, with tools to scan without leaving evidence. She didn't resist. She let them draw blood. Scan neural pulses. Run patterns across every major cerebral lobe. Ethan sat on the opposite end of the room while the analyst read results from a narrow blue tablet. "Genetically," the woman said, She's 82% a match to Amelia Rowe. That's extraordinarily high. But there are anomalies. Non-human sequences. Neural structures not typical to human cognition. In English, Ethan said flatly. She's not your wife, the woman said. But she's made of her? Silence again. After the analyst left, Ethan stayed seated. The girl no, the thing stood at the window, looking out. Stars blinked above the field. Far, cold, familiar. You used her, he said finally. No, she replied softly. I was her. He barked a bitter laugh. Don't play this game. I'm not. I carry her memories because I was built from her end. Her neural echo. Whatever remained in the void when the pod collapsed. That's not being her? No. But it's being something. He walked closer. Stopped halfway. You feel anything? At all? She turned. For the first time, her expression changed, not mimicking human empathy, but trying to. I don't know how to cry, she said. Not like you. But I know what it meant when you whispered her name in sleep. I feel that, in waves. Ethan looked away. I wish you were just a copy, he muttered. Just clean data and false skin. Why? Because then I could throw you out. Silence. I'll leave, she said. He didn't answer. I'll leave if you ask me to. Still nothing. She turned back toward the stars. I don't want to replace her, she said. I just wanted to come home. And for a moment just one he believed her. But he didn't know which her he believed in anymore. We didn't touch. But I didn't want her to leave. The lights were low that night, not by choice but because Ethan hadn't changed the hallway sensor in weeks. Outside, a faint violet glow from the outer moons filtered through the window slits like diluted starlight. The space station hummed in a familiar way, the sound of recycled air, distant gears, and everything that said you're alive, but alone. She sat across from him on the edge of the couch. Legs crossed. Hands in her lap. Not moving. Not speaking. Ethan sipped something lukewarm. It wasn't coffee. He wasn't sure what it was anymore. Just something to hold. She finally said, "This body feels foreign." He didn't answer. "But next to you," she hesitated, her voice lower, "I feel like I belong again." That word. Again. Like it had ever left. Ethan stared at the device on the table between them. A portable recorder. He had once used it to track data logs. Now it sat silent, picking up nothing but breath. He looked at her face, not quite Amelia, not entirely alien either. The jawline was the same. The way her hair curled near the temple. But the glow beneath her skin, the stillness, the way her pupils didn't quite dilate with a dim light that was new. Or wrong. Or both. The window pulsed as the orbit shifted. He remembered Amelia laughing. A full laugh, head thrown back, in their old kitchen. She had burned the soup. He'd teased her about it for weeks. This version hadn't laughed yet. "You can't sleep?" he asked. She turned her head slowly. Not in the way you mean. I can enter low energy states. But dreams, no. He nodded. His chest tightened. They stayed in silence again. The kind of silence that felt like someone was about to confess. Or leave. I used to think, he began, that grief was something you climbed out of. That one day, it just stops. And it didn't. No. It just changed shape. Became quieter. Sharper in the edges. She watched him. Her eyes didn't blink as often. Her breathing didn't sync with his. But still, something in her gaze made the air feel less empty. He stood up, paced once, then sat down next to her. Not close. But not far. I should tell you to go, he said. She nodded slowly. But you won't? No. She looked down. The light caught on her eyelashes, too even, too perfect. Not grown. Placed. You feel guilty, she said. I don't even know what for. For sitting here? Maybe. She uncrossed her legs, turned slightly toward him. I didn't come back to break what you had. Or have. What do you want then? She didn't speak for a long time. Then, to be near something real. Something that remembers me. Ethan leaned back. He stared at the ceiling. His mind wandered. To nights he fell asleep with Amelia's back against his chest. To how her body always found a way to curl into him in sleep. To the way she smelled of mint and something else he never identified. He glanced at the figure next to him. She didn't have a scent. Not really. But she had presence. And it didn't feel wrong. Just incomplete. His hand moved, then stopped. Inches from hers. Not touching. She looked at him. You don't have to touch me. I already know. He nodded. He didn't ask what she meant. And when he finally drifted into a half-sleep, head tilted against the couch, she remained seated, her head turning slowly toward the window. He dreamed. Of nothing specific. Just warmth. Breath. A rhythm. And when he woke, just before dawn's artificial glow returned, she was still there. Not human. Not gone. But here. And somehow, that made the silence feel less cruel. What if the one I buried is still out there? The message came at 4:02 a.m. Not a knock. Not a whisper. A digital ping from the Space Authority classified. Ethan opened it without thinking. They found her. Amelia. Alive. Cryopod 77B had been recovered from the drift field near Cassiopeia's edge. Damaged, but intact. She was unconscious. Stabilized. Breathing. He dropped the tablet. It clattered against the metal floor like a gunshot. In the other room, she stirred. Not Amelia. Not exactly. But the one who had sat beside him all night without asking for anything. His hands trembled. He walked to the window. The stars looked the same. Cold. Ancient. Uninterested. She appeared behind him. Silent. Always silent. You saw the report, she said. He didn't turn. She's alive, he whispered. I know. Of course she did. The silence between them was louder than any alarm. Finally, he turned. Looked her straight in the eye. You're not her. No, she said softly. Then what the hell have you been doing? She blinked slowly, trying to remember what it felt like to be loved. That wasn't yours to want. No, she agreed again. But I carried it anyway. He stepped back, as if she were radioactive. Why now? He asked. Why show up right before? I didn't know she would return. I didn't come to replace. I came to finish something that never ended. He wanted to scream, but no sound came. He walked past her, into the room where she had kept her things. No scent. No dust. Just folded presents. He sat. She followed, but didn't sit. You looked at me like I was her, she said. He didn't deny it. I wanted you to be, he whispered. God help me, I wanted it so badly I forgot what real grief feels like. She knelt down, not touching. I was her, she said. Until I became me. His throat closed. I can't do this, he said. I know. You need to leave. She nodded. She stood. He didn't watch her pack. Didn't ask where she would go. The silence now wasn't healing, it was retreat. At the door, she paused. When she wakes up, she said, tell her thank you. For what? For leaving enough of her behind, that I could find myself. Then she left. The door hissed shut. Ethan stared at it for a long time. And all he could think was, I don't know who I lost more. She wasn't my wife. But she was the part of me that survived when my wife died. The room was quiet, the kind that wrapped around your breath and made it feel too loud. Amelia lay still, her vitals a soft, rhythmic pulse on the monitor. Ethan sat beside her, hands folded, eyes tracing the shape of her cheek untouched, untouched by the 3 years that had wrecked him. He had thought the end would bring relief. Closure. A straight line. Instead, it was a loop. On the table beside the bed sat a small, unmarked device. No buttons. No display. Just smooth metal, warm to the touch. She had left it behind. Not with a message. Not with a promise. Just a presence. The first time he picked it up, it buzzed faintly. Like a heartbeat. And in that moment, he remembered the exact temperature of the air when she had said, this body feels foreign. Not Amelia. Not human. But real. Somehow. Each night, after the nurses dimmed the lights, Ethan would hold the device between his palms. Nothing visual. Nothing spoken. But he felt a kind of echo, shaped like a memory he never made. Not scenes, emotions. A tangle of longing and stillness. A whisper of warmth that wasn't his, but knew him anyway. He never cried. There was nothing to mourn. Not anymore. One morning, he found himself speaking aloud. I don't know your name. The room didn't answer. Neither did the machine. But his voice felt less alone. Amelia stirred once, weeks later. Just a twitch. A flicker under her eyelid. He held her hand gently, didn't speak. She didn't wake. He didn't rush it. He had stopped counting time. People came. Doctors. Old colleagues. One brought champagne. Another brought condolences. He accepted both with the same nod. When asked how he was, he said, "Here." No one asked what that meant. Sometimes, he walked through the shipyard at night. Past the docking bays. Looked up at the stars that had once swallowed him whole. He never searched for her. Not the original. Not the echo. Not anymore. But each night, when the world shrank back to four walls and a pulse on a screen, he held the small metal shape in his hand and closed his eyes. Not to remember, but to feel what survived.